Ladies and gentlemen.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Men and Prophets podcast. I'm here with your guys' all-time favorite guest, me. I'm the favorite. And then there's Ben.ddavid. We got Ben.ddavid
Hi.
over here, least favorite. Out of he gets a bunch of hate feedback.
Yeah, we don't get any feedback.
Yeah, we don't get any feedback except for on Deezer because Deezer's like popping nowadays, which is crazy. It's more popular than Spotify now. Anyways, this is the counterculture series. This is season 5. We have some kind of updating news before that. Sorry, we did not post on time this last podcast. That was like 100% Ben's fault.
Yep.
I took no part in that. I don't do any of the editing or anything, so that was all Ben. But it's up now.
It's up now.
If you guys are watching this, it's up now. No matter what. She was eating that soil when I first put it down. But the other update, was after this episode, right? We're gonna go back to kind of our original. She needs to stop eating the soil. Katie, get in here. We're gonna stop doing more. We're gonna stop doing that much seasons as we are, and we're gonna start
Episode by episode.
episode by
And then
episode.
if we feel like we have a topic where we really need to cover it in multiple episodes, then we'll make it a series.
Yeah, exactly. But it's mostly gonna be. I mean, we've been kind of zooming through seasons at this point.
Yeah.
So we're gonna just switch it to that, so it's more kind of straightforward. Each episode is its own thing. But this is season 5, episode 4.
That's actually episode 5, I think.
Episode 5. Yeah, I wouldn't know because I'm not the one who edits and uploads and puts all that stuff on there. So,
Episode 5.
anyways, it's episode 5. The series question is: where is the world going, and why are we as followers of Jesus supposed to go? And where are we as followers of Jesus supposed to go?
Yes.
And this is episode 5, as I just said 10 seconds ago. And it is titled "Love in Our Time."
Yeah. So love as we know it in the West and love that is in the Bible are two entirely different things. The Greek words that are often used is agape and eros. I don't know how to exactly to describe it. Not describe it, pronounce it. But agape is the love that Jesus showed. The love of compassion and doing and acting and doing things for others. And eros is more of a passion. It's more of like almost like a lust. It's kind of like lust versus love kind of
Yeah.
thing. That love in our culture is still different than what it is seen. And
Yeah.
like that agape kind of love. Yeah.
Now we can see it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, yeah.
So we have agape versus eros. Yeah, that's kind of like where we'll start. Just like going over what love is to us in our culture and what it really should be.
Yeah. Good verse to start it off is 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 8, which says, "Love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails, but where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away." Going back to where it says, like, it always protects, it always trusts, kind of just, then if you want to elaborate on that part right there.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously this is completely different. But when it says like always trusts in the verse, what it kind of means is believing all things. And this doesn't mean that Christians are like gullible. If that makes sense. Like believing anyone or anything, but trust is faith in God and Jesus Christ. It is a faith that becomes effective through love. Um, and there is no crisis, no sin, no problem in the church that can shatter faith in God. So that's kind of going over what that means right there, because that can
Yeah.
be a little bit sidetracked and used as to say like always trust, like oh Christians just always blindly, whatever, which isn't true.
Right. Yeah.
And then also, I mean, we just see in that verse describing a love that we don't really know. Um, when we say that we love someone, we are often not patient with them. It's fine. We find it hard to be kind. We find it hard to not envy, to not do any things it says not to do, and to do all the things that it says to do. Um, in our culture, we see love as more of just like a warm, kind of cozy feeling
Hmm.
that we have towards others, that we just like accept them and we tolerate everything. That is kind of what we see as love.
Yeah.
Um, or there's the whole thing about like a romantic love, how it's like you like there's this whole thing about like true love, but that's a whole other thing. We can probably get into it later.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so it's all related. The quote I want to bring up is by Tim Keller. He says, "We instinctively tend to limit for whom we exert ourselves. We do it for people like us and for people whom we like. Jesus will have none of that. By depicting a Samaritan helping a Jew, Jesus could not have found a more forceful way to say that anyone at all in need, regardless of race, politics, class, and religion, is your neighbor. Not everyone is your brother or sister in faith, but everyone is your neighbor, and you must love your neighbor." And this plays into the idea that it's really easy for us to do nicer things for people that we know.
Yeah. For sure.
Like it'll be easier for me to do something nice for you than it would be for a random person on the street, obviously.
Yeah. At the start of life, it was kind of it went hand in hand, but now I feel like it's just weird in
Hmm.
society nowadays to treat someone nice on the street because they're going to
Yeah,
be very confused
yeah,
and just ask, "Who are you?"
yeah, yeah. Then there's also like ways that we do that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm just trying to think of like what else we can go into. You want to read Galatians 5:13 through 14?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll read that. Galatians 5, verses 13 through 14. You, my brothers and sisters, were called to be free, but do not use your freedom to indulge. But do not use your freedom to indulge the flesh. Rather, serve one another humbly in love, for the entire law is fulfilled in keeping this one command: love your neighbor as yourself. Yeah, as we just explained before, um, love your neighbor as yourself. It's pretty simple. The word freedom in this verse uh, kind of relates to liberty from the Mosaic law that comes with faith in Christ.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
Um,
and the part after that, freedom to indulge the flesh. Indulge the flesh just means to gratify one's rebellious human nature. Christian liberty is not license to sin, but freedom to serve one another in love.
yeah, so that's a perspective change right there, where it says not a license to sin, but a freedom to serve. Um, And that's what we should be approaching love with, is a perspective change almost. This talks about this a lot in the Bible, how we were once slaves to sin, now we're slaves to righteousness, how we were once blind, but now we see, when we're given the Holy Spirit and when we become Christian. And this should also be the same with the way that we love, loving everyone, loving them as ourselves, and loving them wholeheartedly in the agape love that Jesus showed. Uh, and seeing it as you're now free to love and free to serve rather than being locked up in that cycle of wanting to do everything for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
um, and indulging the flesh. Yeah, it's almost a false. It's almost really like a false sense of freedom when you're in that mindset. You feel like you're free to love someone whenever you want, but I can also kind of do whatever I want for myself. But that really isn't freedom, because in reality, you're almost always going to do what you want for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so you're a slave to that. You're bound to that. But when we're free to love other people, we expand that and we become more free in that
Yeah.
sense.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's easier to take care of people when they're in their vicinity, and you have when you like know their needs and know their wants to make them happy, rather than uh, your random neighbor that you don't know anything about.
Um, I'll read First John 4:8 really quick. It says, "Whoever does not love God does not know God, because God is love." And I'll just go over like what agape means a little bit. It means forgiveness or love in like friendship, family or marriage, and it can also be used as a synonym for what I was saying earlier, eros, which connotates desire and passion. In John's writings, agape is the ultimate expression of God's grace and is the essential nature of God. So that is who God is as a person, not as a person. Sorry, not to. That is who that is God's like essential nature is what it says. His love, the agape love that He shows, namely through Jesus.
Yeah. A good quote by Joshua Harris
Hmm.
says, "First, we must understand that all of the world's deceptions flow from the belief that love is primarily for the fulfillment and comfort of the self. The world poisons love by focusing first and foremost on meeting one's own needs. Christ taught that love is not for the fulfillment of the self, but for the glory of God and the food of others. True love is selfless, it gives, it sacrifices, it dies to its own needs."
Yeah, so an idea that was really going through my head when you read that um, was if you think about it, most of the relationships that you get into, like close relationships, are like obviously not just you're just doing everything for the other person. A relationship is like people always get in relationships because it benefits themselves, right?
Yeah.
If it didn't benefit you, why would you do it? If you become friends with someone, it's because you have fun with them, you have similar interests. If you want like your relationship with your parents, they provide for you when you're a kid, and you love them and whatever. If it's a healthy relationship, all
Yeah.
this, of course, what I'm saying is lying that it's a healthy relationship.
Hmm.
With a spouse, you both love each other. You both give each other what you need. Um, so almost all these relationships play to this idea that we do everything and we form our relationship and we only love people because we expect something in return.
Yeah.
Um, and so this is saying that we shouldn't expect something in return. Not to say that like we should form unhealthy relationships with people, obviously,
Hmm.
um, but to people that we don't know or to people that we don't know as well, to form like a strong relationship with, we should be willing to give and not really expect anything back.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's also just like simple things in life that you don't really think about, like opening the door for someone. They can't really do it back to you because then that wouldn't make any sense unless you somehow like met each other on the way out, or
Yeah.
just getting out of the way of someone in a grocery store or somewhere. It's just um, I don't know, things that make a person happy.
Yeah, yeah, like you were saying, this can be in many forms or ways. Just like being just like a like someone who is just easy to talk to, or someone who is just like easy to make laugh, or something like that, or just being like a nice person for someone to like be able to hang out with at work or something or
Yeah.
anything. Like it goes in a lot of ways.
Hmm.
And it's never going to be easy. Well, obviously, there's things that are easier than others. Like holding the door is going to be easier than going up to a random person, like a homeless person on the street, and offering them to go buy them food and have a conversation with them. It's
Yeah.
a whole other thing.
Yeah.
But it's all going to take you to make a step out of your daily routine, your normal.
Yeah. And sometimes people just have I mean, a hard heart to think that, like, I mean, obviously you're giving something to the homeless person, but you just have to think that they're not giving anything back, which is fine.
Mm.
Just like a thank you,
Yeah.
which is worth a lot.
Um, Yeah, so Colossians 3:14 says that, and over all these virtues put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity. And when it says over all these virtues put on love, there's a lot of like ancient thinkers, Jewish teachers, that regard love as an important value. But Christianity was like the only movement where it was that chief virtue that we see almost everything kind of surround, as far as virtues is love. I think Paul talks about it when he was talking about like what we read earlier. Like we can have, but where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be still. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. But he talks about how love always that love continues forever. He talks about that later when he's talking about the gifts again. You can have this and you can have that. You can have all these gifts, but without love, it's meaningless.
Hmm.
Um, so that's what we're saying here when we say that like Christianity is the only really kind of like religion and thought from this time where love was the forefront. So definitely is a change in pace from what you normally saw in that Near Eastern kind of Greco-Roman world. It's just, yeah,
Yeah,
showing people love.
yeah. I mean, a good quote relating to that, or a good verse relating to that, is 1 Corinthians 13:13. It just says, "And now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love."
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. And then if we want to go even further than that, John 15:13 says, "Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends."
Hmm.
So Jesus showed the greatest love possible.
Yeah,
He laid down his life. He sacrificed.
and it's just worth a lot more. Like those three: faith, hope, and love. Like you can give faith and you can give hope, like to someone, but really to that other person, it doesn't mean that much. Like
Mhm.
giving faith, it's kind of like what does that even mean? What does giving faith mean?
Yep.
And giving hope is just your kind word, but
You can more like, I think what you're trying to say is that you can inspire faith and you can inspire hope. You can't really give them, but you can give love.
yeah,
If that makes sense.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So I
what I was
want to,
going for.
cool. There's a quote by Jared Wilson that kind of sums this up what we were talking about. It says that loving others isn't about us at all. And until that sinks in, we'll never be able to love the way Christ truly loved.
Yeah,
So yeah, until we put it behind us that every single thing that we give, we're not going to get back. We'll never be able to truly understand, you know, what this love is that Jesus talks about and what it is that he does.
yeah. Obviously, um, I mean, Jesus loved everyone that he interacted with, but obviously that love did not come back in all circumstances, which is something we have to understand. Because I mean, there's those people in the world that think and believe otherwise, but we just need to attend to love.
Yeah. I want to read John 13:34 through 35 really quick. It says, "A new command I give you, love one another as I have loved. New command I give you, love one another as I have loved you. So you must love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another." Um, so this is like the most important instruction that Jesus kind of left for 11 was this like fresh new commandment. New commandment in parentheses, to love one another. If their motive in following him had been to obtain a high place in the Messianic kingdom, Jesus knew that uh, the spirit of rivalry would disrupt their fellowship before they could accomplish his commission to them, if that makes sense. Um, the attitude of love would be the bond that would keep them united and would be the convincing demonstration that they had partaken of his own spirit and purpose. He had loved them without reservation and without limit and expected them to do the same. And then in the verse when it says, "Love one another as I have loved you," the standard is no longer how we love ourselves. It's how Jesus loved us. So
Hmm.
it's raising the bar a lot. Jesus displays his love in foot washing and supremely in the cross. I mean, he raised the bar.
He did raise the bar by a lot, a bar that none of us can reach.
Yeah.
For Shaquille O'Neal, get it? Because he's tall. But he
Yeah.
actually can't. You can't.
Mhm.
You can't. The bar's too high for Shaquille
The
O'Neal.
bar is too high for Shaquille.
Um,
How much vertical do you think Shaquille O'Neal has? Might jump like maybe an inch. No, I'm kidding. I feel
yeah,
like
probably maybe it is.
maybe an inch. No, I'm kidding. Well, you feel like if he's so big, it's hard to jump.
Yeah, but you got that. The
He's
bigger
got all
you are,
that
the bigger
muscles.
muscles you
Yeah,
got.
that's true.
Yeah, he's probably got like a
He's probably got a good vertical. I
like a
mean, he was in the
4 foot
NBA.
vertical.
Yeah,
Yeah.
4 foot? No shot.
Well, no. Oh, sorry,
That's
not 4 feet.
that's
Like 3 feet.
huge. Uh,
He's probably got a 3 feet. Yeah, 3 feet isn't that high. I feel like I could.
yeah,
Well, not just like vertical. I feel like if I lift my legs up, I could
maybe,
get a 3 foot vertical.
maybe. Um, back
Anyways,
on topic. Yeah.
yeah, sorry, Shaquille O'Neal.
Uh,
Um,
Frederick Buchner. I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
Buchner. I
Buchner.
think it's German.
He says,
Frederick is a German name,
okay.
I
Um,
believe. I don't know.
he says, of all powers, love is the most powerful and the most powerless. It is the most powerful because it alone can conquer that final and impregnable stronghold, which is the human heart. It is the most powerless because it can do nothing except by consent. And that is something that might be challenging to understand. Um,
Yeah.
but I think the best way that we can kind of put that, I mean, you put it in a good way, uh, but we see that Jesus never took up any form of like violence or something like that, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he only consented to what the Pharisees. He escaped, like the Pharisees sometimes, like when they were like getting mad at him or whatever. But in the end, he consented to his sentence, his
Yeah.
false sentence, and that is all that we can do with love, and that's why it's so powerless in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but we see that because of his love and because of his consent to that, what happened on the cross and what then became of that is the salvation for the world. Um, so it's something, and this ties a lot into like the whole idea of violence in the Bible and nonviolence and how that all plays out and what we should do um, based off of that. But in my opinion, the more that we understand the idea of love and the more that we practice it and use it in our daily lives, the more willing we are to be like Jesus in the way that he consented to that. To be like Jesus in the way that we don't have to use like force or like violent things,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense. It's hard to kind of describe, I guess,
Yeah.
but that's what I personally think.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, it's. I get what that's saying. Because love is powerless except for consent. Um. Well, because I feel like yeah. Obviously, love won't change someone unless it changes their mindset or they're like able to take it in. I
yeah,
guess.
and I'm also thinking about like just like in our world, like if we have to choose to like use force on someone to protect, other people,
Mm-hmm.
we might say that, and this is really this we when we get into the whole idea of like self-defense or like any of this kind of stuff, it gets really heated. Because like you can say that, oh, I'm protecting myself out of love because I love the people behind me.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, Jesus calls us to love everyone. So like, how can we say that we love everyone if because we're not? So it's like hard. What do you do there?
Yeah.
Like that. I don't know how we got from love to self-defense.
It's like that one question of there's the two train tracks and you have the lever to change the train tracks and one has like, a baby on it and then one has like a friend that and you're like, which way are you gonna pull it?
Yeah, I know. Well, that's not really something that you'll have to do, but
Yeah, no, obviously.
but
It's
like a
like,
more like
yeah.
realistic situation, or I say realistic, but not really realistic. Most people who live in the West probably aren't going to be in the situation where you have to kill someone to protect.
Yeah,
Uh,
right.
Most of the time you're not, unless you live in like a really bad spot,
Unless you live in
or
Tacoma.
you just get really unlucky. Um, but like if that were to be a thing, that's a whole top. I think we should make this a topic,
Yeah, I think so.
because I think I think most of our I think most people in our group would lean towards the side of self-defense. So I think I'll probably just play the devil's advocate and then be the contrary voice, and it's like I'll find points to argue against it, and then I think that'll make it good.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
That'll be fun.
It's a good idea.
We're gonna do that. Maybe we'll do that next week.
Maybe.
That
Yeah.
would that would get.
Yeah.
I know Rylan would be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rylan and Brad.
That's true.
Um,
Yeah, especially Russ.
yeah.
Um, yeah, do we want to close it out with two John Mark Comer quotes?
Are we gonna double up the Johnny Mark
Yeah,
Hoover?
let's double up the John Mark Comer. I'll get the first one. John
Well,
Mark Comer once said,
huh?
"We were set up to love. To absorb the love of God into our bloodstream and then share it with another human being.
Yep. And then he says also that Jesus' life is the example for how to love. It's that easy and
Yeah.
that
The first quote was kind of relating to the last part that we read. Obviously you can't absorb the love of God if you don't, I guess, like realize that it's there,
yeah.
if you don't consent to it.
Yeah, and you can't give the love of God if you don't absorb the love of God. So it's
Mm-hmm.
a thing. And then
Hand in hand.
yeah, and then we see just how like the goal of Jesus is right there, and it seems like it's just like so clear. Like we all there's oh my God, I'm so bad at going on tangent. But like there's this like everyone has this innate sense of what is they wouldn't say what would Jesus do, but they have an innate sense of is what needs to be done. It's
Yeah.
almost like the way I think of it is like, like when you're in a situation, like you can see it playing out in your head two ways almost.
Mm-hmm.
Like right before you, like you can see which path that you should pick. Oftentimes we always pick the wrong one, and that's why it's that difficult. And that's why it's also that easy because we almost always know the right answer.
Yeah.
It's like this is a good way to kind of see how flawed humans are. It's like we're taking a test, and then God tells us the answer, and then we still choose the wrong answer.
Yeah.
It's like that's how flawed we are.
Yeah.
And it's like that's why we need the Spirit and God and to be made in a new creation because we ain't working. He's like, hey, do this. Oh, okay. It's answer A. C.
I've It's like the idea. I haven't chosen C in a while, so C has to be it.
Like it doesn't make any sense, but that's how we work.
Uh,
I think that's one of the like best analogies I've made so far.
yeah,
But
that's
like,
pretty good.
yeah, I don't know.
That's better than any analogy I can make.
Yeah, well, that just came to my head. I don't know.
So you're kicking a soccer ball at
Ah, we're not going back to the
I'm just
soccer analogies.
yeah. Well, that's a good way to cover it.
Yeah, we can go a lot more in depth, but you know, we got time. We only have so much time and stuff.
Yeah,
And I
we're
think that
busy. We're busy guys.
Blake really just wants to go eat his donut,
I want to eat
a
it's a
brownie.
brownie.
Sorry, he has two other really big donuts.
I'm still full, but I'm gonna eat that brownie.
But anyway, yeah, that is a love.
Yeah.
Um,
Another series, well not series, I guess. Like part of the next part season thing that we want to do. I want to add in like stories of the Bible as well.
yeah,
Like just telling, I mean from like the Old Testament to the New Testament, just like telling stories that happen. So I feel like a lot of things are skipped and a lot of times we just only like
yeah, we
list
only
a bunch
cover
of
like
verses,
New Testament
which
verses.
yeah, verses they're just like
Yeah, it's really important
sometimes
to
come out of
yeah.
nowhere.
Someone that I really recommend is the Bible Project. If you want to understand the Bible as a whole, especially if you struggle with the Old Testament, they help a lot with um, uniting the entire Bible as one unified story. That's like their whole thing. Is making the Bible into one unified story, which combines the Old Testament, not combines, which adds like makes the Old Testament like prominent instead of being like, oh, that was then, this is now. They actually
Oh
use
yeah.
it to like show. I mean, the basic thing is like the whole narrative that behind that thing. I mean, this
Yeah.
they say that like how the Old Testament shows us how it went from like bad to worse 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 to worse
Hmm.
to Jesus. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll do that later. But yeah, I think we're done for now. That's love. I
That
love
was
you all.
love.
Yes.
Like, subscribe, follow on Deezer.
On Deezer.
See you later, guys. See you next week. I won't post late this time. You'll see this on
Probably won't.
Friday at 1